All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to this next episode of Gravitas Expert Speak webinar. This is where we talk about the different issues of working in this new work environment. And we are starting off with discussing what are the future skills. And there are no more future skills. Why? Because he's the leader who has the experience in this field right now. So, starting on that note, we're going to have a look at what is it that has changed. What exactly do we need to do differently? How the leaders can cope up with it? What are some of the learnings, unlearnings, and relearnings which are required for us to be done? And in this series, we are going to talk to one of my very old friend, collaborator, partner, and a great coach and facilitator with deep expertise of almost 25 years that he brings to the table. And today I'm going to invite him to talk about one of the skills that everybody seems to be talking about, leader as a coach. Why is it that we need to have a more coach like approach to our conversations? And what are some of the myths around it? So let's talk about it. And please help me welcome Prakash Nair for today's call. Good morning, Prakash.
Good morning, Rajiv. Thank you so much, first, for the warm welcome, and secondly, for inviting me. Excited and delighted to be on this show and share my insights about the leader as a coach concept. And as you very correctly said, it's no longer a future skill. I think it is something which is required today and quite urgently.
Brilliant. Yes, absolutely. So since we have got 30 minutes, let's make best use of that. I'm going to dive straight into it and says why do we need to have more coach like approach as a leader and not as a boss?
Yes. So to answer the question, Raji, the first is today's world is become very rapidly changing, totally disruptive, fast paced, and high pressure. A very interesting piece of research is that the amount of information our grandparents and our parents received in a decade, that's in the 1960s or 1970s, the amount of information they received in a decade, it is supposed to be the amount of information we receive in just 72 hours. And this study was done about 8, 9 years ago. Probably today,
Wow.
it's much lesser. So, what does this tell us? That is the amount of information which is coming in, that is the rate of change, the speed of change which is happening around us. The second thing is that today, the work is become more and more knowledge based. It is
Right.
no longer based on physical labor, typical 8 hour shifts, and so on. And that knowledge does not flow through one person who is the leader. There is no
Correct.
command and culture, command
Mhm.
culture. It is not centralized. It is anybody can learn anything and at any point in time and use it. So two things which come out is that the leader cannot have all the answers. That's the
Yep.
first thing.
Absolutely.
Secondly, is that a leader cannot be in 10 different places at the same time because the workforce, and especially what the COVID has done is that it has accelerated many of the changes which were already
Right.
happening. So today we have a diverse workforce, we have a remote workforce, we have it becoming more knowledge, more and more complex. So this leader as one person who's expected to solve all the problems, that is concept is not working anymore.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
expected it to happen in over a period of time, but it's already happened. That's why, as you very correctly said, it's not a future skill, it's today's skill. So that sort of leadership where the leader has to provide all the answers, leader has to be everywhere, is not working anymore. And that is
Yep.
why we feel so many challenges. So if you ask most leaders today, they are going to tell you 2 to 3 challenges. My work day never seems to end, even though I work 12 to 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Second is, I seem to be fighting fires all the time. I'm not getting to do what I want.
Right.
And thirdly, is that my team members don't seem to be taking any ownership or accountability, don't seem to be developed.
So let me try and capture those 3 points. One, you said my team members are not taking the ownership. I seem to be fighting fires all the time. And the third one,
My workday doesn't seem to end. 12,
Wow,
14 hours a day.
I think you are talking and resonating with the sentiments of most of the leaders today. Okay,
Yes.
so at so far we seem to be on the right track. Great. So
Yes.
what do we need to do about it then?
All right. So it's simple as that the leader should be able to devolve that authority, that problem solving, the decision making, and the idea creation. All these activities have been devolved to the team. So the teams, both as individuals and groups, should be able to solve problems on their own, should be able to make decisions and come out with ideas, not wait for the leader to be the person who's doing all that. For this, leaders need to develop people. How do you
Right.
develop people? You need to be able to delegate, and to be able to delegate, one of the key things is we need a coaching style of leadership.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So yeah. So when you say delegate, you kind of got on to a very important point. So delegate means in what way is the delegations going to be different in this situation?
Yes. Earlier delegation, as you said, the standard process. There are these 5 levels of delegation. But here, the delegation is the ability to grasp new information which is coming in
Right.
and apply the data analysis and the decision making process to themselves and being able to go ahead with that decision. So that's a much higher level which we are
Level of
expecting our skill
okay.
sets,
Okay. So you're
authority, and
saying that
all.
if you have to have autonomous decision making, then you should have the critical thinking skills to be able
Absolutely.
to make sense of whatever information that you are getting, and autonomously you should be able to take a call or take a
True.
decision to move forward, right?
True, true,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely,
Right.
Raj.
Right. Right.
Yes. Coming
So,
to the
so
second part, yeah, sorry, Raj, go ahead.
no, no, it's okay. It's okay. Perfectly all right. So you are. I think I'm just interrupting you too much here. Carry
Not
on
a
with your
problem.
second point.
All right. So second point is that then comes to coaching. What are the key issues, challenges, and what are the benefits which we need to look at? Interestingly, in a study conducted by Daniel Goleman, the author, well-known, renowned author of many books, the most best-selling one being the emotional intelligence, the person who brought emotional intelligence to the forefront of
Right.
workplace leadership. In the study he had conducted, he found that among the 6 essential leadership skills, coaching style of leadership skill had the most positive impact and was
Right.
also the most effective in terms of performance, culture, and bottom line.
Right. 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 Right.
And those are the 3 areas which any leader has to be able to impact. And
Right.
coaching. However, the same study also pointed out it's a least used coaching and least used leadership style. All right.
I
Uh,
remember reading this part of research, because that requires not that you delegate something to your team members, but it requires for the leader to make certain changes in his own behavior, and that's the
yes.
reason it is the most difficult one to practice. Yeah, correct. Mhm.
Absolutely. And apart from that, Rajiv, again, another study which is conducted among coaches, people who are typically coached, shockingly, uh, only 23% of coaches said that the coaching had a positive impact. 10% said they had a negative impact. Now, just imagine what a bad rap coaching style of leadership is getting, and you can understand why that is happening.
So
Already,
what is the reason that this that we are seeing this kind of a response from the coaching
yeah,
style of leadership?
typically the understanding of what coaching is. So you have the
Ah,
3 areas: the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set. All
mhm.
3 areas, the leaders were not equipped to be coaches.
Right.
So when
Right.
you apply poor coaching styles, then obviously the results are not going to be. It's working in patches. So that
Right.
is, that is another one. Second, of course, leaders frequently complain is that in a high pressure, fast changing environment with so much of things happening at the same time, coaching seems sort of to be very slow and tedious. So how
Mm.
do I find time? What do I do? So these are the two things why it is the least used style of leadership. It's much
Right.
easier to tell people rather than sit and go through this whole process.
Right, 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 right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, means first of all that I don't have the mindset, because I have become successful in my life by telling people what to
True,
do, and I have
true.
been rewarded for that. And I have come to
Yes,
this place that's a validation enough that I've been successful doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Correct. And now suddenly
yes,
you are asking me to just let go of that position by not telling people, but asking them. That's more of the coaching style. Is that correct? Right. So
Absolutely.
I'm finding as a leader itself. I mean, as a leader, I'm finding it difficult to make that shift in my mindset. And
Yes.
basically, apart from that one, I don't have the skill sets how
True.
to be a coach. Is that
Yes.
correct? That you're saying?
Yes, absolutely, Rajiv. You have hit it perfectly on the nail. And
Okay.
also, one is letting go of power and authority. That
Right.
itself is quite uncomfortable. Then I don't know how to do it.
Mm. Mm.
Those two areas, and then it is very slow and tedious.
Mm.
So these three things are causing the approach towards leadership to be quite negative and quite resistant. All right.
Right. Right.
However, however, coaching is really simple, can be done in 10 minutes. It
This is what I wanted to kind of see. This is where people think that coaching means a 1 hour, 1.5 hours that you
Yes.
need to carve out from your schedule and you have to do it. And if you have got 5 to 7 different team members in your team, then I mean, to be able to take that kind of time out is something which is going to be huge drain, and that's probably one of the reasons why leaders decide not to engage in coaching as a thing. And
Yes.
and I was quite excited when we were discussing, and you said that coaching does not necessarily have to be something which needs that kind of a time. Every conversation, even a 5 minutes conversation, can be a coach like conversation. So I'm quite
True.
excited to hear about that one. Why don't you
Absolutely.
share a
Yes.
little bit more about that? Yeah.
Sure. So there are three things which we can talk about. One, it is can be done in 10 minutes or so. It
Mm,
can be a daily practice and it can be developed as a habit. One example from my own career, this one. I was working in Taj, one of 7 department heads reporting to a general manager. Every day morning, there is a morning briefing, 45 minutes to an hour, never more than that. If required, that's a separate meeting. All of us
mm,
provide our updates. The general manager used to ask 2 to 3 questions. So, now what? What are the challenges? What should I do? And
mm,
he will make us come out with all the answers and solve our own problems. The only question where you would ask why is that why didn't something happen? Other than that is all about what. So now, all right, what next? What do you want me to do? That's it. Whenever it was a pan hotel issue,
right.
he will get
Right.
the whole team to come up and put up a statement on the board and said, no, please share. Now, this used to do it regularly in the morning briefings. And
Mm,
I saw the incredible impact it had on each one of us. I think my growth as a leader was the highest during that period of 3 years which I worked with this particular
mm,
gentleman. The
mm.
whole team grew at a whole. Our hotel unit was rated as one of the best performing hotel units among all the 74 Taj hotels at that point in time. And
Wow,
I
this
think
is
the
this.
leadership was the key over there.
Okay, so let me understand. You said that he would come in and he would just ask these questions. So what happened? Uh,
Yes.
what next? And what was the other question that you mentioned? There are two, three questions that you said.
What
Yes.
is that you want from me,
Okay,
and
what is that you want
what
from me?
are the yeah,
Okay,
what help, what do you want me to do, what help? And
okay.
it was a
So
very
what
direct
what
question, what do you want me to do?
yeah, so what happened, what else, and what do you want me to do? So
What?
his style of managing was not to give any advice on what happened and this is what you should have done, but just asking the people to define the problem statement, at the same time also asking them for the advice.
True. True.
Okay, brilliant,
And
brilliant.
two interesting pieces of conversation. First, when we encountered the cell, most of us had got transferred, and you're all working together with him for the first time. We used to come walk out and say, "What is this GM up to? He's not giving us any solutions, any answers. How are we supposed? Why do we ask him in the first place?"
Yeah,
Three
yeah.
months later, we were all saying, "Wow, this guy is great."
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah. So this is something really interesting because I remember attending this program with Dr. Stephen Covey, and in that
Hmm.
somebody had come asking him. He says, "You know what? I don't understand my teenage son. He will not listen to me." And Dr. Covey said, "Look, watch your language, what
Choice.
you're saying, right?
True.
That if you want to understand your son, should you be listening to him or should he be listening to you?"
Yes.
Right. I think that is one of the mistakes that we tend to make sometimes is that we, without understanding where the problem is, we tend to kind of try and give advice. And in today's world, when things are so dynamic and changing all the time, probably those people who are on the front line, they have much better answers than I as a boss or a leader. So the shift which is important is, instead of telling them what to do, maybe I should just ask them first exactly what is their judgment of the thing, how are they making sense of it, and responding
Yes,
to that one. Okay,
yes,
great.
yes. Yeah, true, true, Rajiv. You
So
have
I
summarized
think,
it correctly.
yeah, yeah. So I'm saying that, okay, fine. So basically, you talked about the mind shift. Let's talk about a little bit on the skill sets part of it. What exactly, how exactly, kind of can we have some sort of a repeatable framework that people can take away from this session? What would be a couple of pointers that you would offer them?
Sure. Before we do that, just one more quick point I want to add. The
Sure.
three challenges which the leaders are facing. One is over dependence. The more a leader helps, the more the team members need help. The more they
Mhm.
need help, the more you help. So all the time the leader becomes the person who has to solve this 101 problems. He
Right.
becomes or she becomes a bottleneck. The second is, because of this you get overwhelmed. Have you seen that game Whack-a-Mole, Raji? These heads
Yes.
pop out, you're given. That's what it happens after some time. The leader is 10 moles popping out each time and you're trying to whack it, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, because of that, you become disconnected. You are no longer wondering why. It's not just Monday morning, it's every morning which you start dreading. So the Michael Stanier, the author of the book The Coaching Habit, from which I'm deriving all these insights, he put it in a
Right.
very
Right.
nice way, saying that the bind, the grind, and the resigned. Yeah.
Sorry, come again.
Getting over dependence on the leader is the bind. Everybody is caught up in that bind, tighter and
Right.
tighter embrace.
Right.
Getting overwhelmed is the grind. You're getting onto this treadmill which never seems to stop, only seems to go faster.
Right.
Then you become disconnected. So it is the
Resign.
resign. So the bind, the
Oh.
grind, and the resign. Yeah. As you very correctly said, now what do we do about it? So the three elements, which is the mindset, second set is the skill set, and third is the tool set. So first, from the mindset part of it, one important paradigm shift is that ask more, tell less.
Ask more,
That
tell
is
less.
one
Yeah.
most important shift that leaders have to make.
Mhm.
Why? Because as leaders, we are so used to giving answers, and not as just as leaders. I think in many of the roles we play, we all love to provide solutions, jump and give the answers. So that
Right.
is one of the key things. So we need to change that mindset. How do we do it? Those four elements to it. The first element is identify the trigger. When is that we do this? The second is use the double S concept, which is short and specific. The new
Okay.
habit which you want to develop, it should be a micro habit which can be implemented within 60 seconds.
Right. Right.
The
Right.
third is practice that habit deeply and intensely and consistently so
Okay.
that it becomes
Short and
second
sweet,
nature.
and practice a couple of things that would definitely make this framework work well. Okay. Great. Wonderful.
Yes, yes. And then you start celebrating. So whenever a team member comes to you with a problem or a situation or a challenge, the immediate habit, habit currently is that immediately provide a solution. Instead of this, so this is the whole habit. Instead of this, the new habit is I will ask a question, and what will I gather about the answers. So that is how you start making this, take using a three-step process to start developing a new micro habit. So that is the first important thing, which is about the mindset part. Now moving on to the second two parts, the skill sets and the tool set.
Right.
How do I ask questions? And what are the questions I need to ask? So, Michael Stanier in his book gives a lovely, powerful framework of 7 questions. Let me quickly
Yes.
take you through the questions. The first is called the kickstart question. Second is the AWE or the all question. The third is the focus question. Fourth is the foundation. The fifth is the lazy question. The sixth is the strategic question. And the seventh is the learning question.
Right, 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 right. So, by the way, just for our listeners at this moment, this is the tool set. So, Prakash talked about the mindset, skill set, and the tool set. Skill set is something that you will be able to develop once you practice it. from our side, what we are going to do is I'm going to put my email ID in this. And if you were to drop us a mail, you will be able to receive one tool set, which is the framework of these 7 questions that you will have as a ready reckoner here. So thank you very much for that one, Prakash. Go ahead. So why don't you just give us a little rundown, a quick rundown of those 7 questions that you just mentioned?
Will do, Rajiv. Happy to do that. So the first is the kickstart question. So let's understand why this question, why not some other question. Typically, the 3 challenges which any leader faces when they start coaching is that the small talk, who got how much in the IPL, latest COVID, what's happening around the world, all this small talk. And sometimes I've been in situations where the small talk has gone on for a long time, and both of us, me and the coachee, both wondering what the hell are we up to here. All right. So this is one challenge we face. The second is the agenda, the ossified agenda. What and all has happened in the past, they all become part of this agenda. So there is no fresh perspective or no look. Already the answers are there, solutions are the same things again and again. So that is the second thing which happens. The third is, as a leader, I already know the answer. There is a default diagnosis and I already know the answer.
Yeah, most of the time we kind of go to the conversation knowing that, I've got a preset notion of what the answers are going to be. Okay.
True. And probably the way I rate myself as a leader is my ability to how fast do I give the solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. But what this question is going to the heart of what is the matter, it at the same time making it real and fast conversation. So it's a really powerful question which does 2 things at the same time. It allows a lot of freedom for the coachee to express what really they want. At the same time, it is also a question. So what's a question? What's on your mind? And please remember, Facebook, the question they have is what's on your mind?
Mind, yeah.
All right. So this is a very powerful question which allows. So one, it shows as a leader, you are demonstrating trust in your coach's ability to share what he or she wants to share. And you are giving them the autonomy to do that. All right. So when you have done this, when you're asking this question, please remember the 3 P's. One is the projects, the content of the project, the task, the transaction, the steps, the action plans. So the problem or situation could be related to that, evolving from that. The second is the people, any one of the stakeholders who impact that work. The third is the patterns, the leader's own behavior, which is resulting in the situation coming up. Maybe it's becoming a recurring problem and it's becoming chronic right now. So those are the 3 P's. And also we need to look at, are you coaching for performance or are you coaching for development? Coaching for performance is fighting the fire. Coaching for development is coaching the person who's fighting the fire.
Right. Yeah, so your focus needs to be more on the person rather than the problem. As managers, we tend to go straight to the problem, and that's where we get into this vicious circle of wanting to provide the answer, right? And rather than focus on the individual. But what again, I will refer back to Stephen Covey. He would talks about the product and the producing capability. So our focus should not be on the product; it should be on the producing capability as a manager. If I have to be empowering. So there's one thing that Michael Bunge's tenure talks about, the advice monster. Do you want to kind of talk about that one a little bit? Because I think we are left with last 5 minutes of our session here. So maybe we should just focus on that one because that's a key linchpin of the shift in mindset which is required for the managers.
Absolutely. So going to the next question, which I think we will cover and we will look at doing that is that the second question is, and what else? Now, why is this question important? In a book called Decisive, written by Chip and Dan Heath, interesting research says that 71% of the decisions made at work are from binary options, which means 2 options are there. Leaders pick one of those 2.
Right.
And when they did this, 50% of the decisions resulted in failure. 50%. Now we can imagine if you just put that into time, effort, and money, what a huge impact it has got. Interestingly, when multiple options were generated, we found that number 50% rate came down to 28%. All right. So this one, the question AW question and what else question helps us from jumping in. It helps us to
Yeah, so it does two things. When you say and what else, not only does it prompt the other person to think and come up with more options, at the same time, it is also stopping you from giving advice on what you
Yes,
are thinking of telling them, right? So, I mean, you are
true.
consciously trying to stop yourself from telling them and stay in the asking mode. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We are getting out of our own way and the coach's way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And as you very correctly said, the advice monster, it is lurking
Mhm.
inside us, ready to pop out at the first opportunity. And it is so deeply driven by our need to fix things
Right.
that it keeps popping out all the time. And this question, and what else, helps us to do that. So that is one. It helps us to, generate more options, stops us from jumping in, helps us to manage the time, helps us also to get the coachee to be able to share that. So that is the one of the key things. And coming to the next part, which is one of the other questions I'd like to talk about, is that by this time, as a leader, we are reaching the advice monster is literally all over us. Yeah, we are itching to give the answer. What are we trying to do when we do this? When we give the answer at this point in time, even after this question, we are first, we are solving the wrong problem because we have already done a default diagnosis. We have still not got to that real problem. The
Right.
second is that we are still solving the problem ourselves. So how does this change anything? I still am whacking moles all over the place. So it doesn't change anything. And thirdly is that I'm not actually solving the problem. I'm becoming part of the problem myself.
Yeah. Mm.
So even if we have a brilliant solution to the problem, the advice monster, we need to tame it. We need to stop this urge to fix problems and ask one more question, which is, what is the real challenge for you? And
Mm.
when we say what is the real challenge for you, it is not what is the challenge. It is not what is the real challenge. It is what is the real challenge for you. What is the challenge? Too vague. What is the real challenge? Many challenges could come up. What is the real challenge for you? Helps the person focus on the key, the matter which is the key to them, what is important to them. So that is something which it does that. And there
Mm.
are three challenges with this helpless. One is that the coach, and we'd have seen all of us as leaders, when we ask this question, there are many challenges which come up. This stops all that and says, let's get to that one challenge.
Mm.
Second is,
But
people
I had
say,
read some, yeah, sorry to interrupt here. This is where I had read somewhere, even when you're writing an email or something, the
hmm,
word you is a very, very powerful word. The minute
yes,
you say that word you, people tend to go inside
inside,
and internalize that problem for themselves. Where exactly am I having the problem? So if
yes,
you were to try and persuade someone, they say that instead of writing thanks, you should actually write thank you. Why? Because
hmm,
it uses that word you. So that for me was a very powerful pointer, that when you ask a question to someone, what is the real challenge? What is the real challenge can be a global thing, and people tend to say, oh, that problem, this person is not doing things and that person is not doing the things properly. But if I were to ask them the question, what is the real challenge for you? Then people tend to think, where am I having the problem? What is it that I'm
yes,
not able to do? That's a good, I mean, that's a great insight that I had from that question. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
yes, yes.
The
And my
next one.
last, yeah,
Yeah.
last 2 points is that it also prevents us from what Michael Bungestenier calls coaching the ghost, right? And
Wow.
many of the time, what happens is the problem is someone else,
Mm.
that team member, this person, client, this, that, 101 things. But we are not able to coach the person. When we ask this question, we are coaching the person in front of us. We're not coaching a ghost who's not there in the room.
Yes.
All
Right.
right. So the second. The third is the generalization. This is a problem, that is a problem, the generalization. When we ask this question, what's the real challenge for you, it cuts through everything and brings us to the real problem, the heart of the matter. And
Right.
that is
Right.
why this is the, and if you look at this 1 2 3, the first question, what's on your mind, the second question, and what else, and what's the real challenge for you, gets us and the coachee to exactly focus on what is the situation at hand. And then we are able to generate the options by using. And all this, each question applied at this point in time can be done in 10 15 minutes.
Wow.
as a
This is
daily
this is
practice.
this was the one which kind of got me excited because the biggest challenge, as you mentioned at the beginning, was that people they resist, kind of talking about coaching simply because they believe that it's going to take me too much of time. But like you
True.
said, these first three questions they get you to have a very fast start and come to the problem statement fast. And once you have defined that, then it makes it much easier for you to go to the next part, is which is generating solutions is concerned.
Absolutely.
Well, Prakash, thank you very much. I think this has been a great insight for everyone. I'm sure we could go on and talk a lot more about the next three questions also, but I'm sure this will definitely give our listeners something to chew on and to be able to, kind of work on some of those thoughts that they themselves have got. I mean, I've
Yes.
always believed that for adult learning, it's not about how much you can put in the other person's head, but how much are we
Yes.
able to inspire and encourage them to explore the topic a little bit more. So
True.
I'm sure that definitely has happened in today's half an hour session here. So thank you very much for coming on this, our talk show and sharing these wonderful key insights that people will definitely find them useful. I'm definitely going to call you again sometime to discuss it a little further, more from here. Right. Thanks a lot.
Rajiv,
So
thank you so much for having me on this webinar and supporting me throughout this. Very very happy to have had this opportunity to share my insights, and I look forward to more such opportunities, and always ready for a discussion with you, Rajiv.
thank you so much. It's likewise,
Thank
right?
you, and thank
Okay.
you to everyone.
So thank you, everyone. And please remember to drop us a mail on gravitaslpi.com. And we are going to send you the tool set which Prakash mentioned that will just get you with a speedy start on practicing this skill. So, with that note, I would say bye. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.